Now we're
Welcome to the Cards Hub postgame show. It's brought to you by Hot Shots, St. Louis's home for all the games, all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com and by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Stefan, Carey here, joined by Sara, Dayley. We are so excited to finally mention that the Cardinals have won a game, a huge win for them. The pitching was spectacular, 2-0 over the Phillies, a great start to the homestand. And Sara, one of the better managed games I've seen in a long time, with all of the issues surrounding the Cardinals early on in this one. I thought that they performed very, very well against the Phillies in game one.
Yeah, dealing with a bit of the injuries thus far in the season. And then in the bottom of the second, or in the second, I believe, Masyn Winn, some back spasms reportedly is the reason he came out. So I'm sure we'll hear more about that in the near future. But then replaced by a not so familiar face at second base, a makeshift lineup, moved some things around. And Pages just had a great substitution. Again, management made some great decisions, and it really just came together for the Cardinals. But it has to be a confidence booster when you can move guys around last minute. Of course, the Phillies a little bit tired, not saying it's an excuse. They got in about 4 a.m. after a 3-hour rain delay last night against the Braves. So dealing with quite a bit on both sides of the ball field tonight, but the Cardinals pulled it out and will absolutely take it in the right spot.
Let's continue on with that thought about how well this game was managed, not only by Ollie Marmol, but by the staff of the Cardinals. Late in the game, they decided to burn the DH spot and go with Brendan Donovan at second. He made a couple of key plays over there to keep the Phillies off the base paths. And again, they decided, hey, we're going to empty our bench out in a 2-0 game. Do you think that shows more faith in his guys defensively, or more faith in the great performance of Andre Pallante here in game one?
Well, Pallante definitely had a solid performance. So I think his performance into that portion of the game definitely helped with some of that confidence. But the Cardinals have had a lot of extra frames in a lot of games earlier this season. They're used to coming back slightly, not quite getting it done, but putting a lot of runs up towards the end of the game and really fighting. So I think if they just keep that mentality, it's going to pay off eventually at some point. It just wasn't quite going their way early on the season so far.
Yeah, not a huge margin for error offensively for the Cardinals. 1 for 13 with runners in scoring position. They came into the game tonight with the best batting average with runners in scoring position in all of Major League Baseball, so a bit uncharacteristic of the 2025 Redbirds. Phillies were 0 for 5 with RISP. So it was good to see them holding the Phillies, but also you want to see them converting with a couple of opportunities. Strike zone was a little bit all over the place in the latter stretches of that game, but Andre Pallante commanded the game well. And it almost felt like to me, and I'm sure you felt the same way, this pitching staff received a lot of flack on this past road trip. They looked motivated to get after it in game one, a shutout win. Do you think that was palpable through the TV screen tonight?
I do. I think they were ready to come back home and, kind of trying to break through that road slump, so to speak, and getting back to where they're, kind of resetting against the Phillies. I know it was going to be a challenge coming in, especially against this team, but tonight it didn't look like it for the Cardinals. And I think the pitching staff definitely is going to have an opportunity to regroup, but they really were getting some, like you said, flack early on. I think the bullpen, they have really good chemistry, and the locker room as a whole has good chemistry. I think that really helps bring the team together. They haven't given up the Battleback Birds. I've heard that thrown around a couple of times, even though it didn't quite take wins. A lot of the games have been very close. And some of those key moments, I think, are really something to capitalize. It's still early. I feel like we've been so down on the Cardinals thus far in the season. They have so much left to play still. And I think that's something that we really need to keep in mind. A lot of opportunity here, a lot of development. Hopefully some of these injuries don't turn into anything long-term. And then they can keep growing as a team. They're young. They do have a lot of talent. And I definitely see that coming out.
Opportunity being the operative word. Right guy at the right time. Andre Pallante tonight has been as consistent as they come since July 1st last year. 14 starts, 3.46 ERA. That's the best on the staff since that date. He was, again, as advertised, 7 innings, gave up just 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, and held a Phillies lineup that is one of the best in the major leagues in complete and utter check.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the flip side, you do have to look at the performance by the Phillies pitching staff. I mean, you did have Nola coming out 0-2 to start this season. He's never done that in his career. Now, looking at another situation where he probably isn't quite completely happy with what happened out there. And so you have to think, what has the Cardinals bats done to some of these pitchers that have previously done so well or not so well to where they're keeping them in check? So like you said, I think that's a really good point. But Nola, 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs. Again, looking for that first win here this season for him personally in his career. So I think he might have even had a little more motivation going into tonight's game. But his breaking ball, he can use it anytime. He was getting down the count, still rifling it in there for the third strike. So he did have some confidence and some key points there. But early on, the game was not so exciting. I mean, it took a while for some things to really get going on both sides.
Yeah, slow developing offensively for the Cardinals, just 2 runs. A lot of opportunities early in the game. They just couldn't quite capitalize with runners on second and third in 1 out or less situations. And again, runners in scoring position are going to be this team's bread and butter if they want to be really competitive. Pitching staff has struggled, but with nights like tonight, it's got to be very encouraging for the fan base who, again, was looking for performance like that.
Absolutely. And then you have Pozo, who's kind of emerging as this next superstar. Everyone's kind of having their blips of moments where they're really contributing to the team, and it's not just one key person. So I think that a lot of the players that are starting to show those moments are coming up clutch for the Birds. Cardinal fan base really likes some of the star players that can come up, and I think they're looking to hang their hats on some of those because some injuries have plagued some. Then you've got some that go in a slump. And again, we're still pretty early on, but Pozo tonight, down the line, with that nice RBI. He had a double, also scored a run. So contributing very well in this couple of games that he's been behind the plate.
Not just Pozo, Thomas Ajacey, a multi-hit game, celebrating his 23rd birthday. And there's a lot of cause for celebration if you're a Cardinals fan. But another way you could celebrate your birthday is with DraftKings. Baseball season is officially underway, and it's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick 6. Think of DraftKings Pick 6 as your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. Cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Of course, you can download the DraftKings Pick 6 app using the code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play. $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Great to see the Cardinals back in front of their hometown crowd on a Friday night. Boy, those City Connect jerseys looked so good. Almost like a Friday Night Live vibe was what they were talking about with the team. I think that they certainly stepped up to the plate in more ways than one and delivered in front of their fans. They have played well at home so far this year. They're sporting a 5-2 record at Busch Stadium in 2025. And I think that home crowd really was a welcome sign after a 1-5 road trip this past week.
And it was nice to see Halsey come out with the lights go out, the red ribbon. That's kind of the home thing for him. The crowd gets riled up. So definitely being back at Busch is a good thing for the Birds, the City Connect. I will have to say I had to look a couple times on the broadcast because the City Connect logo I'm not used to seeing at the bottom of the scoreboard. So that was a bit of an adjustment because you're like, what is that? But yeah, I'm a big fan of the jerseys. I think it's a great look for the Birds. So Excited. I'm excited to see what they do tomorrow, except we do have a couple of pitching woes that we still have to work through here with this lineup. So we have to see how that plays out for them with Nicholas and a couple of their other starts. But, I'll take it tonight. The Birds needed this. Now I can get some rest and go right back at it tomorrow.
Yeah, quick turnaround. It's going to be a 1:15 start. Christopher Sanchez for the Phillies and Miles Michaelis for the Cardinals. There's probably nobody in that clubhouse that would like to go out and have a good performance more than Miles Michaelis after struggling on the road trip. I think he has certainly the capabilities to do it, especially against a Phillies team that, like you mentioned, got in at 4 a.m. last night. They had a walk-off against the Braves. The Braves walked them off at Truist Field, excuse me. And that's really what you'd like to see if you're the Cardinals. Take advantage of a team when they're struggling a little bit and get back to where you want to be.
Yeah, and Michaelis, he's aware of the situation he's in. He's been around for a while. He knows that he needs to go out there and perform better. I know a lot of Cardinal fans are expecting more out of him and kind of down early on, but he does have the potential to just turn it around. I mean, we got to make the best of what we have as a team collectively, and I feel like that's something that a lot of could be a big turning point for him. If he comes out and has a really stellar performance, that's going to add to the starting rotation. And who knows what's going to happen if we see starting six by mid-April. I mean, I doubt that's the case, but it's been tossed around a bit, and we'll see what Ollie ends up doing.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch of games for the Cardinals. You start with Philadelphia, then Houston, then New York. You have three teams that are perennially considered to be in the postseason. The Mets may be one of those new blood teams, but this is a great start for the Cardinals to get that first win at home and build some momentum. But even more than that, it felt like Andre Pallante's length in this game saved the bullpen a whole lot of effort. A depleted bullpen now getting a chance to reset and refresh for their next few games.
And that's definitely something the Cardinals need. They need a handful, one or two at least, to be solid starters that can go deep in a game. Your bullpen early on, I think it was after the first or second series right away, they had already thrown like 20 plus innings, and that just can't happen. You're not going to have any arms left. They're going to be gassed. And it's just a situation where you need to have those pitchers, that can definitely eat some innings away and solid performances at that, like we saw tonight. So again, another positive moment for the Cardinals. They're starting to put it together, and that's exactly what we want to see.
It is, and it was great to see. Now, things that you didn't like to see, you mentioned it earlier, Masyn Winn being removed from the game, lower back spasms. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you about this, considering the plethora of injuries the Cardinals have already suffered in 2025?
They've played in a lot of cold and a lot of long innings, and it's been a tough stretch right out of the gate for them, in not only conditions, but just all the extra innings and then not pulling up victories. It could be just a little bit of being tired early on. I mean, you got to give yourself a little bit of credit to kind of adjust. You go from spring training right into full go mode, and, you saw him on the broadcast kind of bending over, stretching it out a bit. So let's hope that it's just something that little heat, ice, and maybe some therapy can kind of fix with a quick turnaround. But again, I'm sure we'll get more of an injury report or more in depth on that as the night continues and first thing tomorrow. But that would be definitely a loss for the Cardinals, because something that you don't want to have to deal with is a makeshift lineup like this with something you don't see coming. And that is going to affect quite a few players. And if that list keeps growing, then you're definitely going to have to resort to some other options. And right now, the Cards don't have too many of those up here at the moment.
Well, it was great to see what Ollie Marmol did to get the win tonight, but you don't want this to be an everyday situation for St. Louis, trying to figure out who is going to be playing arguably the most important defensive position on the field. And like we all know, if you're around the game of baseball, not all positions are created equally. That shortstop position is taxing on the body. And when you don't have a backup and you're expected to play every single day, which Masyn Winn, I'm sure, would love to, it does weigh on you, even early in the season. So I'm sure that there will be some tinkering and decisions to be made about how do we fill this role if Masyn is to miss an extended period of time. But I hope it just is a maintenance type situation where he doesn't miss too much time, because you're already missing Ivan Herrera, and that's a big bat that's out of the lineup.
Yeah, and then Gorman also as well. So, it's really something that there's a reason and a strategic approach to when Ollie or any type of management has guys that get a day of rest, or they have a day off and then maybe a second day of rest if needed, because there's a reason for that. It's a lot of baseball, and you have to go the whole season. You can't have them done by mid-season and not get any more results. You want it to get stronger as the season goes on, not taper off. So I agree with you in that situation that, again, fingers crossed, it's nothing more than something that can just be dealt with, with today or tomorrow off and right back at it. So let's hope for the best with Masyn Winn.
Great comment here. I'm really surprised we beat the Phillies after the way we played the other day versus the Pirates. Sara, are you surprised by this? Or again, do you think that it's a new day and they were motivated by being back at home?
Every game is a new game. I feel like every pitch is a new chance, every inning. And I'm not just saying that. I've seen so many crazy things happen in a baseball game coming down to the last out. And Pallante really did a stellar job out there. So am I surprised? No. I mean, they have the talent. It's really putting all the pieces together. You can't have amazing pitching and then nothing crossing the plate or no bats on action. You can't have the opposite. Like, you're not going to get it done with one or the other. It has to be a 50-50 chance to put it all together and make everything happen. So I think they're really just finding their groove and trying to figure out, fighting the early woes and really just going the direction they need to go.
One of the big X factors tonight was Ryan Helsley getting back to form, retiring the top of the order, the most dangerous part of the order for the Phillies, in a 2-0 lead. If you remember, a few games ago, game one of that doubleheader in Boston, Cardinals held a 4-2 lead, a 2-run lead at Fenway Park, and it was a 4-walk outing for Helsley. It was good to see him getting back on track.
100%. I think anyone in the bullpen, it's good to see getting back on track, because you hate to see guys that you're dependent on coming into the season to really come in and shut things down, and then ultimately end up not doing that job in any way, shape, or form. I mean, there's guys in relief and reasons that they can go more than a couple of innings if they're in a longer relief position or as a closer. They have a job because they have a talent in that spot. So they definitely are out there for a reason. So having Helsley come out and do his thing, I think, was definitely a high point and something that Cardinal fans needed to see.
Roddery Munoz activated as Chris Roycroft was sent down to AAA Memphis. Roddery expected to maybe fill that role that Steven Matz was filling, as he will take that 6th spot in the rotation on the 16th of this month. I think Roddery Munoz had a decent spring, but it is a name that the Cardinals fans aren't too familiar with. What do you think he's going to bring to the table for this Cardinals relief?
Well, I definitely think he's going to be something Cardinal fans are going to be open to. I think that's a good thing, because they're looking for some answers and some keys to really plug in the gaps where this team is missing some key fundamentals when it comes to pitching. But as far as being sent down, I think those guys definitely need to get their frame of mind and things back on track. And I think a lot of folks were saying that about Contreras as well. Like, you kind of just need to readjust your thought process and where you're at, because once you start going down that hole mentally, I don't think it's a good place for any athlete to be, whether you're a baseball player, football player. I mean, it can be across the board, but you mentally have to be in the right headspace. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. So hopefully those guys will be back up and can contribute to the big league team. But, there's always someone behind that's ready to step in and be a key factor. And I think Memphis and even some AA guys have the potential down the road if that's something the Cardinals need. They've always had a very strong farm system. So I don't doubt there'll be a couple of guys there ready to step in and step up big.
Of course, another reminder, please leave your comments and questions. We'd love to get to them here on the show, on the Cards Hub post-game show. I think Pallante is going to be really good. Well, certainly he was tonight and has been for an extended period of time for St. Louis. Remember, at the end of spring, it was a conversation, is Pallante even going to be in the rotation? Is it going to be Michael McGreevy? Those two were duking it out for what felt like the final rotation spot along with Steven Matz. They ended up doing maybe a bit of an unorthodox shakeup of the roster. But man, Pallante, when you put him in major league games that count, he's been as good as anyone.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. And sorry, I was reading some of the comments there, and some of the people that are watching in or tuning in. Rycroft wasn't good last year. That's Paul O'Leary. What made them think he was going to be this year? Well, I think you always have development and you see things. So just tackling back on that subject that you just mentioned with him being sent down. And also a good note, Space said that Katie just posted Winn will not go on the IL, but does expect to miss a few games until he recuperates. So hopefully, like we mentioned, it is just a maintenance thing. It's just a little bit of soreness, a little bit of fatigue, and he can get right back in the game. So those are two good comments. Sorry, that kind of took me a little sideways there, trying to see what folks were thinking about the Cardinals' performance tonight.
That's just great journalism right there. You're on top of it. And it's good news. It's great to be able to break that news on the show that Masyn Winn, who right now is the star player of this franchise, will not be going on the IL. And the Cardinals really, I think, right now can't afford to lose another star young talent in their middle infield, which is so important. Middle of the field is of paramount importance defensively, especially when you have as much talent as Masyn Winn does. Now, the outlook for the rest of the series, 2-day games back-to-back against the Phillies. They're going to try and come out and take game number 2 with Christopher Sanchez, who's been great. Miles Michaelis, we talked about him a second ago. What do you think the Cardinals need to do in order to get a series win and get back to what they did for that from that opening series against the Minnesota Twins?
Pitching. I think they really need to make sure the pitching is dialed in. I mean, they've been hitting. They've been putting up the runs. They have been hitting. Their bats haven't been silent. So that's not really something that I think is a huge concern. It's the pitching to allow those runs to do the job to take the win, right? So I was surprised a little bit by Kyle Schwarber. He was not offensively doing anything for the Phillies, and they rely on him. He's a significant contributor. And his performance is crucial to providing run support. So tonight they really didn't get much out of him. And, I think they're looking for him to do something tomorrow for the Phillies. But as far as the Cardinals go, I think if they just keep focusing on the pitching and finding that right rotation as far as who they can go to in the bullpen that's reliable after someone going deep, they're going to be in pretty good shape.
And I love this comment here. It kind of goes hand in hand with what you were saying. Michaelis' performance is going to go a long way in determining if the Cardinals actually go to a 6-man rotation. Well, Oliver Marmol did say that they will go to a 6-man rotation regardless. That is the plan. Steven Matz will be a starter come April 16th. I believe that is game 2 in Houston. So he will be pitching for the Cardinals as a starter. And they said that they will, quote, figure it out the rest of the way. This bullpen is going to have to adjust to the changes. With that in mind, how do you think that's going to affect the rotation, the extra days off? Do you think that will benefit them, or do you think that the routine is more important in keeping them on that 5-day schedule?
I think that's a double-edged sword, to be honest with you. I know a lot of guys like routine. A lot of guys settle in. They have strict, not just routine pitching, but routines that they do on a day-to-day basis. And if some of those things get thrown off, just speaking from Dad was a starter at the beginning and then went to relief. And, they kind of know when they're going to be called upon into a bullpen situation. But with starters, they just have their thing. And so if consistency is what they need, then I think they need to find that. But then again, if they're going to have some guys, they're going to go up and down and try and figure out the rotation to make them stronger, then that's what they need to rely on as well. So I kind of am toss up on which one is going to be best for the starting rotation.
And that really shakes out to be a start every week and a half instead of a start at maybe every week. And I think that helps these guys and really has them lock into each game that they're starting. The makeups don't come as quickly as they used to. If you have a bad start, you don't get to make it up in 5 days. You might make it up in a week and a half. So I'm curious to see how it all plays out for the Cardinals. But tonight was a great win to build on. I think they have a little bit of momentum now. This pitching staff was definitely happy to be home at Busch Stadium. It's very different than at PNC Park and, of course, at Fenway, where you're looking over your right shoulder and the ball can sail out of there. Busch Stadium, a lot more pitcher-friendly. I think we saw that tonight with a really talented Phillies lineup that was stymied by Pallante and the rest of the Cardinals staff.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. But I also, just real quick, going back to what you were discussing with pitching and rotation, if they can't find a reliable 1 or 2 starters to go deep, their arms and mentally it can affect them because they're going 1, 2, well, not 1, 2, but 3 innings, 4 innings, having those 5 days, maybe a week to think about it, dwell on it. They're not really building arm strength if you're not going to go any deeper than that. And that's going to be a consistent thing. So if you can go deep, reset, go those 5 days, get back out there and do the same thing, it's only going to be a continual pattern of progression, I feel like, for some of these pitchers. So to tackle that question, I think that's kind of where we're at with that. But as far as the Phillies bats, it's not an excuse if you get in at 4:30 in the morning and you don't take BP and you're exhausted after sitting in the rain for 3 hours. I think that does have a little bit to do with it. At one point, there were some pop-ups that were just going right foul and not even being hustled for. So at some point, you can tell they're just a little bit drained and a little bit tired from the travel. So the Phillies will probably get some rest tonight. We might see a little bit more action out of them tomorrow.
Right. Like we said, quick turnaround too. A huge opportunity for the Cardinals to take advantage, trying to get a series win tomorrow. It's going to be a whole lot of fun this weekend in St. Louis. Want to see the Cardinals get back to 500. That seems like a really good starting point for them to kind of turn this early goings of the season around, getting back to 500 and then building off of that.
Yeah, and it will help improve their standings clearly. Again, only third in the Central right now, and that's comparatively speaking, given that there are only a handful of games under the belt in a couple series. But the confidence thing, again, coming home is a big deal. I think being back here and being able to sleep in their own beds and kind of just resetting after a really tough road series to start this couple of series to start the season off is taxing, is really taxing.
Couldn't agree more. Well, Sara, it's been a pleasure working with you for this first night. I hope it's first of many, many more. And every time we do it, I hope it is after a Cardinals win. Any final thoughts going into the rest of this series?
I'm ready for tomorrow. I really am. I'm excited to see what they do with some rested Phillies and hopefully a good arm out there for the Birds, because I really do have faith that they can turn this around. It's just going to be a matter if they can put it all together at the right time. And it's really good to hear that Masyn Winn isn't a serious injury, that it's something that they can rehab and recover pretty quickly and just give him a little time off, because that's a definite bright side of what could have been a negative situation.
I agree, and I'm excited to see the Cardinals hopefully take the series. Tomorrow would be their first series win since opening weekend against the Minnesota Twins. For Sara, Dayley, Wilson Trong, our producer, I'm Stefan, Carey signing off here on the Cards Hub post-game show here on Sports Hub STL. Be sure to like and follow and comment. Just stay involved with all of our content and help us build this amazing brand. Cardinals win 2-0. Looking forward to another one tomorrow at 1:15 Central Time. Thank you.